All right, perfect. Thank you, Lauren. So real quickly as an agenda, we'll do a quick introduction of our media, and then I will turn it over to Matt Maines to do a day in the life and the demo of the application. So a little bit about our media. We've been in business since 2002, and we started the company. Gartner had a term called narrowcasting, which was really, find something that you can do well and focus on that as a small business. And so we focus on the enterprise content management space. And so enterprise content management really covering document management, business process management, case management, web content management, records management types of applications. In 2002, we partnered with Documentum, who is a leader in the market, both from a mind share and market share. Howard Shaw was on our board, who is the co-founder of Documentum. And then in 2005, when the other co-founder, John Newton, actually left to start Fresco, we quickly followed and have continued to be a Fresco partners since then. We are vendor neutral from an ECM platform. Not only do we support Fresco and Documentum, but we also support other ECM platforms like SharePoint and FileNet and et cetera. Our media is a CMMI Level 3 organization. CMMI Level 2 says you have standardized process for program management. Level 3 is you have not only standardized processes and procedures for program management, but also for software development with a closed loop process for process improvement. We do quite a bit of work in the DoD and Intel space, which has afforded us some clearances. And even if our projects are not cleared projects, we bring that same thought process into all our projects, which is really more of a need to know. So if people don't have are not working on your project, then they don't get access to your systems, your data, as we implement these projects. And I think our focus in the ECM space has afforded us opportunity to go deep in a number of the different platforms, and which has resulted into a number of different awards for the work that we've done. In our content services practice, we've seen a number of different patterns in the work that we've been doing over the last, say, 5 or 10 years. Case management is one, and when we think about case, we're thinking about, in the most generic sense of the term, a collection of related information, documents, tasks, notes, people, all this associated with a particular case. So whether it be an invoice application, or HR application, a loan application, a docket management system, a FOIA system, that collection of information has some kind of process and life cycle. Most of the information that we're helping our customers with, whether it be a case management system or IT modernization, most of those documents are official records and need to have some governance around them. And so implementing a records management system that would allow them to have their retention schedules and disposition schedules to maintain those digital assets. And then lastly, as people look to modernize the platforms that they're on, migrating them from a legacy ECM platform to more of a modern ECM platform has been something that we've engaged in. And so how have we addressed these patterns? Case management, we developed the ArcCase platform over the years, and Matt is going to show you a quick demo of that a little bit later. But again, ArcCase allows us to accelerate the implementation of case management-based applications. Again, applications that have data and tasks and notes, and then putting a business process around some of those. Records management, so at some event within a particular application or case, the documents are declared as official records, and then they have a retention policy and disposition schedule. And so we've implemented records management, not only for our case management systems, but also as in collaboration with other applications too, for a number of different organizations. And then for platform modernizations, we've done a number of different migration projects from Documentum to SharePoint. For Superior Energy, for OPM, we migrated over 600 million objects from Oracle UCM into Fresco. And then lately, we just finished a migration with GSA, moving them from the Documentum platform to Fresco. So we've seen some patterns that we've been addressing. We've also created some solution enablers, and these solution enablers allow us to increase our time to value. So how do we get our project into production faster? And then also, how do we reduce the risk associated with implementing these solutions by having a framework, by having a tool set that we can go to market with? And so our case I've talked about, we'll see a demo of that, so I won't speak much more about that. Caliente is a bulk migration framework. It natively understands ECM constructs. We built this based on doing our migration, so it understands folders and documents and versions and renditions and those constructs associated with doing ECM migrations. And then lastly, I'll just talk about our Media Content Cloud. And so in collaboration with AWS, we partnered with Afresco and Effisoft in our case to build a content management platform that's been FedRAMP moderate, that's out there on the FedRAMP marketplace now, that provides you document management and image management and records management and business process management, case management, all in a platform that adheres to the over 300 security controls associated with FedRAMP. So with that said, as a quick background, I now want to turn it over to Matt Maines to give us a demo of the ArcCase Legal application.
Perfect. Thanks, James. Appreciate it. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to go ahead and set the stage. Before we actually get into the actual demo of the application, let's talk about the story we're going to show today. It makes a little bit more sense to show really of a day in the life, especially for those that will be utilizing this application. You want to see kind of how the story plays out. So we're going to actually show legal management, but it's going to be handling an actual grievance complaint. Specifically, we're going to utilize Ethan and Darren. Ethan is going to be the person that's been kind of passed up or discriminated as for a promotion. And this is kind of the high-level workflow we're going to use. ArcCase obviously utilizes an actual user interface that allows you to create forms, and from those forms, take those through workflows, and obviously to be able to collaborate. So we're going to create a grievance as a complaint. We're going to have Matt, the user in ArcCase Legal, to go through this, triage it, and then actually open up an investigation. From there, the case will be essentially opened, and then we'll collaborate on that case. We'll spend quite a bit of time going through some of the day-to-day things that can be done on, say, documents or workflow or tasks, or even finding information by searching or looking at reports. And then we'll actually close this case out and show you how you can automatically or seamlessly, by a status change, declare a record. We'll then show some of the other bells and whistles like the admin configuration and spend some time there. With that being said, let's go ahead and transition to the actual application. So this is going to be your login screen. As you can see here, we do have login information. You do have your forgot password, forgot username, but we're going to go ahead and log in manually. We do also have out-of-the-box single sign-on integration. You can utilize SAML, Kerberos. We can also support CAC or PIV authentication. So if those are requirements of your actual customer or of your group, you can actually utilize that out of the box with ArcCase Legal. As you can see here, logging in, you land on the home screen. This is our dashboard screen. On the top, you actually have what's called your global new. This is where you'll initiate a new complaint, case, task, whatever it may be, and we'll go through that manual process today. You also have at the top, you have your simple search, which leads into your advanced search module on the left-hand side. You also have your actual internationalization here at the top right if you need to utilize that or you have requirements around that. On the left-hand side, you also have the individual modules, starting with the dashboard that we're on. This is actually out of the box provides specific widgets to visualize the information that you may use, like list of complaints, and being able to hyperlink out to them into the actual module. Cases, maybe you actually have pie charts or specific widgets that represent your information the way you want to see them, and then even tasks, being able to jump out to that location. So this is your jumping off location. Jumping into the complaint module, I could either click on the complaint module, or I could even just go ahead and click on one of the actual complaints in the widget. It takes me right out to that complaint within the complaint module. The great thing about ArcCase is from a user interface, it's very intuitive. It allows you to see, really visualize the information in very similar ways across all of the modules. As you can see here, we have a list of individual complaints, and within those complaints, or that virtual folder, you have quite a bit of metadata and content, as you can see here. Once again, we will go through the complaint module when we talk about the use case, but jumping into the case files module follows the same paradigm. So you have a list of cases that you have access to and all of the metadata. Another thing to mention here is that I am logged in as an admin user. What that means is I have access to the actual admin role. That role allows for X number of privileges in the application. It gives me access to modules. It gives me access to certain cases. Because I'm a participant in that specific group, I can see this information. And it really essentially controls everything in the user interface through role access. And you'll see that in the security section in the admin configuration a little bit later. Moving into the task module very much follows the same paradigm. You can have a concept of an ad hoc task or even a task that is associated to an actual parent case or parent complaint. And it may be part of a workflow. So as you can see here, you can have process diagram, and we'll go through some of those actual tasks and completing the task here in just a few minutes when we go through the use case. Additionally, the people and organization module, think of this as your people database or your organization database, has its own metadata. So essentially you may have a specific person associated to one or many cases, and you can see what cases or complaints they actually have associations with. And then you can also see from an organization perspective, demographics or information about that organization, and once again, see any complaints or cases or the object that you're actually associating them to. Jumping down into the search module, we do have a full search capability as it pertains to not only the metadata, but the full text search on all images. So we can OCR those images and store those indexed so you can search across them. As you can see, this is a faceted search, and if we have time, we'll come back and narrow down a search, show you how to export, and do a couple of different things here on the search results. We also have canned reports. Once again, we provide some canned reports, but we will show you a little bit later how to not only run the canned reports, but we'll actually create very quickly a one-off report right here in the demo in about 30 seconds and then expose it in the application. So we'll show how to design a report. Jumping down into the admin section, this is where we'll spend the last 5 to 7 minutes or so, and we'll talk about how to control your security, how from day one to set up security, how to set up security around the dashboard widgets that you have access to, how to create new reports or change the labels and terminology within the application, all the drop downs and how you can configure those and change the values, even down to how can you create your own correspondence templates to be leveraged within a case or complaint. And we'll talk quite a bit about that as we go through that. So without further ado, now that you have a kind of a high level idea of the layout, let's actually go into the actual use case. So the use case we had talked about was creating a complaint. So this complaint can be created by a manual user. Today it's going to be manually created by Matt. And let's just say this is a phone call that comes in or an email that comes in that we need to create a complaint that needs to be triaged, okay? You also have many other ways to create things by maybe integrating with a web portal, maybe integrating with fax import, or some other tool or other system that would communicate with ArcCase. ArcCase has exposed RESTful APIs where it's very easy to integrate with ArcCase and integrate not only system importing data, but also ArcCase exporting data to other systems. So we're going to go ahead and create an initiator. If you remember, we actually had talked about Ethan. Ethan is going to be the person that is going to enter in his information basically for the initiator. So Matt's taking a phone call from Ethan. We can actually enter in quite a bit of information, whether it's adding in the organization he's associated to or maybe even the location. Once again, we've made this very simplistic from a configuration perspective, and we only have 2 mandatory fields, last and first name to get a person in the system. So we'll go ahead and save that person. Once we do that, we can either move to the next tab or we can hit next. We'll go ahead and move to the next tab. As you can see here, here's one of our configurable lookup dropdowns. And we're going to go ahead and scroll through this and make sure that we specify this incident or this complaint as a grievance. Okay, we're going to go ahead and we're going to say this is Ethan Allen versus, and we're going to go ahead and say this is versus Daring Construction. If you want to collect additional information while you're, say, on the phone with Ethan, or if this was a web portal, Ethan could be entering in his own information, a detailed description, maybe how often this has happened. There's a lot of other metadata that out of the box comes on this form, but this is a configurable form that can be changed to support your business requirements. Additionally, moving to the next tab, I don't have any other mandatory information, so I'm going to go ahead and create this due to time, but I could enter in as many associated people, whether I wanted to add in Darren as the wrongdoer or someone else as a witness, I could do so. So I'm going to go ahead and create this. What this is doing is going to create a complaint within the complaint module, and it's going to take me there and save, obviously, the information we've collected right here on the form. So once we've actually created that information, you'll notice it refreshes and takes us back to the actual complaint module, and it gives me some notifications that this has been updated. So if somebody else is in the system that's working in the complaint module, they would also see those notifications to say, hey, a new complaint has been filed that your actual group has access to, and you can go out and look at it. So starting with this specific complaint, you can see that jumping through this, we have some of the information we entered, like Ethan. So if I wanted to jump out to Ethan's person account, I could actually do that. I could even then narrow down and start entering in information about Ethan. I could go in and add details about his address. I could go in and enter in his phone numbers or even his email addresses. I could then also maybe put up a organization association, maybe put in the actual construction company that he works for. A lot of things can be entered. So essentially, out of the box, you have access to all these things, but you can restrict these tables or sets of metadata if you do not want to leverage them, or you can make them optional. Additionally, we know that there's a complaint that he's associated to, which is this complaint. If he had multiple things that he was associated to, you would see all of the different complaints or cases. And it just allows us to jump right back into the complaint we're working. So the ease of use and navigation around ArcCase is really what our claim to fame is. We really want you to be able to not only enter the information, but be able to navigate the application very easily. So let's jump into kind of moving this on in the overall workflow. Let's assume that someone is a participant. Once again, we can assign it out through what we call business rules or configuration rules. And we have assigned it automatically to the investigator group. So this is where the participants are. You do have the ability to create automatically what groups or what users have access to this. And you also have the ability to add additional participants. Well, since I'm part of the actual investigator group and the admin group, I have access to assign this to myself or claim it. So I can actually click on claim and assign it to myself, or I could ultimately go ahead and just leave it in the bucket and allow somebody else to grab it. So once again, there's a lot of flexibility in how you want to set the application up out of the box. It has example rules like you see here, but once again, it's very easy to change this information. So let's just assume that the triage has happened. We have done some basic investigation. We've had conversations maybe with both Darren, maybe we've had conversations with a witness. We could add additional notes on the complaint. We could add additional documents or artifacts onto this complaint. And we'll talk a little bit more about that when we talk about case collaboration. With that being said, let's go ahead and move this on in the overall workflow. We've created the case or the complaint and we've triaged it. We then now need to move it on in the overall workflow. So out of the box, you have the ability to convert this complaint into a couple of different disposition methods. You could additionally add this to a case. So maybe there's a case that already exists. Maybe this is an additional complaint from Ethan. Maybe it's a complaint from another employee from the same company. You have the ability to add that to an existing case. You can also say, hey, no further action. Maybe this needs to be stopped here. We need to go ahead and close this complaint as no further action, or even refer externally. For today's use case, though, we're going to go ahead and have it materialize into an actual investigation. Due to time, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to assign this to myself, but this could essentially be a review task or an automatic workflow that is assigned to anyone that you want to assign it or has access to actually approve a closure. I could, as part of this task, enter in details. Maybe I could say, hey, Matt, review this specific complaint, make sure everything is populated that you need to start an open and investigative case. We also can add uploaded documents to support that. So we're going to go ahead and submit this off. And basically what we're doing is we're going ahead and we're triggering, because of the status change to a disposition of open investigation, we're actually triggering a workflow. The way you know that that's happening, a couple of reasons. You actually see that the status is in approval now. You also then can expand and go into your actual tasks. And within your task, you'll see that there is a specific task for Matt to work on this, and it's active. So since I'm actually logged in as Matt, I can actually go and look at this specific task. Once again, if you've seen the complaint, case, task, people, organization module, you know how the layout is. We can actually get into the details of the task by expanding the actual task description. We also can see who it's assigned to. We also can see what is linked to. We can see that this specific task is part of a workflow that's linked directly to a complaint, okay? That doesn't always have to be the case. If you do not have a link to a parent, you will not see the high-level information in the actual ribbon here. To show you where we are in the overall workflow, this is a very simple use case. It's either an approve or a rework task. As you can see here, we're in the review process of this process diagram. You can see that we can actually go through either a rework or an approval, and then it goes back through the process. For simplicity, we're going to go ahead and just assume that this has been reviewed by Matt. He's comfortable with this being opened into a case, and we're going to go ahead and send it on for approval. This approval is going to do a couple of things. It's not only going to close out the task as a completed task and keep track of that, it's also going to close out the original complaint, and it's going to reference the new, as you can see here, then updated. You're going to see the brand new case information associated to that complaint. So once again, a case will be created, and ultimately you can have a total different group that is assigned that as a default. And let's go through that process. Let's go back to the actual complaint. All I did was click on the actual hyperlink from the task. And you'll notice if I go into the details, I can go into the task table, and I can see that this task is not only closed, but the case or complaint itself is closed. And I also can now see there's a reference to a brand new case file. So let's go ahead and look at that case file. Right there from the table, a hyperlink to it. As you can see, we're now in the case module on the left-hand navigation. So just to summarize, we've created a complaint, we've triaged it, we've sent it over to be investigated, we did the approval of opening a case for it, and now we have a case. So let's talk a little bit more about what you can do on a case as it pertains to collaboration. So collaboration-wise, you can do a lot of things around collecting metadata. You can add additional details. We do carry over details from the complaints, but once again, a configurable value. We can carry over details. We can carry over the people associated. But at this point, we can still collaborate and add additional information. Maybe we wanted to go in and add an existing person that's already in the people database. So maybe I want to grab Kim Jones, who happens to be associated to this as maybe the lawyer associated to this specific case. Maybe we want to go in here and add Darren as the wrongdoer, or whatever it may be. We can search or even create new people right here on the fly and continue to build our case. Same thing from an organization perspective. Maybe I wanted to go out here and find out if the construction company is already part of the organization. So there's no construction company currently associated. So I can go in and create a new organization if I wanted to. Skipping over the document section, which we'll come back to, you do have the ability also to control the participants associated. This can be through the configuration rules, or you can actually add a one-off person and put down what type they are. Are they an owner? Are they an approver? Or they maybe have no access to this? Maybe they're just a reader, that type of thing. You can put additional notes in. You can put in tasks, whether they're ad hoc tasks just associated to this case or not. You can see the original reference back to the complaint that has been closed. You also can see things like the history associated. So any history associated to this specific case. So as we add documents, as we add notes, everything is audited and shown here in the history section. We also can track time, which I'll show a little bit later. And you can track the time and cost associated to doing specific work around the actual case. So if you have an analyst or a paralegal or someone that is actually have a specific rate and charges their hours, you can track that information. You also have the ability to track tags. So categorizing your individual cases, complaints, documents, you can add tags which allow you to search in the tags module here at the bottom left. So with that being said and giving you an overview of the case, let's actually collaborate on a case. I already have a case from earlier today that I want to use that I build out a little bit more, specifically the document section. So the document section can be set up in many different ways. You can have a folder structure that is automatically created through configuration rules, or you can have a way of having just a root folder and manually building out your actual folder structure to store not only your folders subfolders, and documents, but also correspondences. And let's go through each and every one of these. So first off, you can actually add a subfolder. So if I wanted to add a demo folder for today, and then within that demo folder, I wanted to add an additional folder, maybe a subfolder to that. So let's just call it a subfolder. Once you have that information, you can then go in on any folder and right click and add a document. Once again, another drop-down list that is fully configurable. Once again, out of the box comes out with some samples that you can utilize, or you can manipulate and add your own. You also have the ability to add correspondences, and we'll do that here in a second. You also have the ability to control the participants and control on that individual set of document management sections. With that being said, let's go ahead and let's open up one of these actual documents. As you can see here, I have a lot of documents already in here. There is no restriction on format or size or how many documents, but you can see the information associated to what the actual format is, what type of doc type it is, when it was actually created, and then the version, because we control all the version control on these individual documents. So let's go ahead and let's just, by double clicking, we can actually open a document. While that one is loading, you also have the ability not only to add documents in the actual folder, but you can do a lot of other things on documents. You can cut and paste them, you can email them out, you can create a new task off of one of many documents. You can edit it online. You can check it check it out and work on it offline. There's a lot of things you can do in document management here, and we won't have time to cover all of that, but you can do quite a bit. As you can see here, here's a document. Once again, this is just a viewer that you can expand to full view, tab through these. You do have the ability to work on the actual document by putting annotations, whether it's a text annotation. Maybe you want to put in specific highlights or even signatures or rubber stamps. If I wanted to put a signature on, once again, these are all overlays. So you can actually basically change all that information as you do that. So you can go through here. Maybe I put too many stamps on there. I can actually change that information. If I wanted to delete it, all I have to do is right click and just delete that out. It says, yes, you want to delete it. Once again, I can do the same thing on each and every one of these. And you can really control where you want to put this on the document. Once again, folio overlay does not affect the original version. You also have the ability to redact an area. So if you wanted to redact an area, you could do so. Once again, still an overlay. Maybe you put it in the wrong location or you need to expand it, you can do so. And then you can actually save this information. What it's doing is it's saving as an overlay on that version. Okay. If you want to burn it, so you can actually email out this copy and protect the data behind it, you can actually go in here and you can burn the annotations. What that's going to do is it's going to go ahead and refresh to a new version, and it's actually going to burn the information into your actual document. Okay. So as you can see here, if I go back out to my document table and I look at that, I can see now that that specific budget is now the second version of 2. I can roll back to the original version if I have the privilege to do that and see what the original one looks like with the annotations. Okay. We also have the ability to not only work on existing documents and view those documents, but we can upload new documents. So if you wanted to come in here and upload a motion to compel or whatever the doc type is, we can actually go out, we can look at a network drive, we can look at a local drive, and we essentially can grab any of the information that we want to grab. So let's grab a document and upload it. We can upload one or many. As you can see here, now we've got the motion to compel, who uploaded it, version 1. You can upload one or many documents. You also have the ability to right click and search within the system to find the documents that you're looking for. Maybe it's actually part of another case or just in the system somewhere and you want to put it on this case. You also have the ability to reference other cases if you decide to do that, and then you can jump quickly to that and see the documents associated. Additionally, not only do you have the ability to add new documents, but you also have the ability to add correspondences. As you can see here, this motions folder is empty, but if I right click on it and go to correspondences, I can actually generate a motion to dismiss. This is pulling from my correspondences that I have as templates in my admin module, and we'll show that a little bit later. I'm going to go ahead and show you that not only can you show it in the viewer or see it in the viewer, you also have the ability to download it in native format. This happens to be a doc or a .docx format, and we'll go ahead and open this up and show you what it looks like. So now that I've downloaded, I can open it up in Word format, and you can see that it actually looks like an actual, motion of dismiss file, and you can still add to it. We can actually edit this, and that's what we'll do next. But some of the information that we pulled in the actual person's name, we pulled in the actual case number, things along those lines. So that's where the mail merge or the templates are utilized. When you add it to a case, pulls in the data that you want to be on that template, and then you can edit it further before you send it out for, say, review or whatever it may be. So let's go ahead and right-click on that same document. We can edit this online. We can actually collaborate with simultaneous editing, or we can actually check it out offline and work on it and then check it back in. I'm going to go ahead and edit online. Basically what this means is it's going to try to open up in the native tool, which is Word. And this is not making me save it locally. So if I check it out offline, I have to save it locally, work on it, and then check a new version in. This is actually allowing me to manipulate the existing version by just caching it locally and working on it. So when I open this up, it's actually going to show you the information that we just saw in the viewer originally, but it's going to allow you now to enable editing. And we can do a couple of different things. We can either type right into the actual document, or what I'm going to do, which is actually go over to the review and click on track changes. When I click on track changes, I could come in here and maybe I wanted to put in some information like the company that's associated with. Maybe I wanted to go in here and add, a new section, whatever it may be. Maybe you want to copy and paste things in. Really, the ability to do whatever Word allows you to do, you can do that. Once you're done, all you have to do is hit save and close it out, and we'll go right back into ArcCase and save a new version for you. So if I go back into ArcCase, we take a look at the motion. If I scroll down, you'll notice that now we can actually see that it's on version 2 of 2. Okay. Once again, you can do checkout offline. You could also do online editing for PDF. So as long as you have some type of native tool like Acrobat, you can edit PDFs also. All right, with that said, let's move on kind of to the next type of thing you would do from a collaboration perspective. Maybe you have now created this correspondence document and you need someone to review it. Well, I can right-click it and create a brand new task. From there, I can then send it out to whoever I want to send it out to. So maybe I want to send it out to Sally. So I select Sally in the group she's associated to. I can then say, review this document. I can set a date for when it's due. I can even send this through its own unique process. So maybe all of the correspondence documents have to go through a tier 1 and tier 2 approval. Maybe it's an approval at the paralegal level, and maybe then it goes up to the lawyer. Whatever it may be, you have multiple processes as it pertains to what process you want it to go through. So we're going to go ahead and pick the document workflow, which is a very simple workflow, which is an approval or rework. Once again, you can create your own workflows in ArcCase and then tie those directly to these actions. So you can actually customize it to meet your needs. Now that that's been done, we keep track of all the tasks. So all you got to do is jump over to the task, and you can see we actually have 2 tasks that are active for Sally right now. One's to review the document, and the other one was something we did a little bit earlier. Okay. So jumping back into the actual document section, there's a couple other things that I wanted to show you. We have integration with AWS transcription service, which means that we can allow you to upload rich media. So there's no restrictions on the format. We allow you to upload audio, video, different types of rich media, and then automatically send it out to the transcription service that AWS offers, and we can transcribe that information. So this may not be something you use on a day-to-day basis, but it allows you to transcribe audio and video and then generate a transcription document that could be used as an artifact in court or can be used as supporting information. So let's go ahead and open up one of our actual rich media files. This happens to be a video file, and it's going to open up in the viewer. We allow you to see the actual video in streaming, which means that you can actually see the video and the actual transcribed text on the video itself. Not only that, but you can also see the transcription associated. So we can see that this has been sent off and transcribed. And you can see here in the transcription section that you actually have an actual control around confidence. That's controlled through configuration and admin. And you can see that most of these sections have come back as pretty confident. If it's not confident, it will actually flag it if it's under your threshold. And then you can go in and you can actually click on correct it, and you can correct this information. You can even jump to the 26th second in the video and actually type as you actually listen to the video. So once again, it at least gets you to a point where it's transcribed it automatically, but allows you to still make corrections. If you make corrections and save that, you can then compile that information, and all it's doing is it's creating a version 1 of that compiled information, and it is putting it in your actual document section of that case. As you can see here, here's my transcription. Okay, so it's just a Word document. It combines all the transcription of that video. All right. That being said, there's one other thing that I wanted to show you specifically on this case, and that is tracking time. We talked a little bit earlier about the time module and being able to track information against the case. As you can see here, we have actually 2 timesheets. One was entered by myself, one was entered by another user, and we can see how many hours that they've actually burned and the cost for their actual hours per hour. If you jump out to the actual timesheet, it takes you right into the time module, and then you can see the details of what that means. As you can see here, we've got multiple hours, and we've got a charge roll of analysts. We've got the actual total cost, and once again, you have the link back to the original. So Matt can actually create this timesheet for this time period, 6/24 through 6/30, and he can charge to one or many cases. I could charge multiple days and multiple hours for case 101, but I also could charge to other cases. I also have the ability to tie back directly to that original case by just clicking on that hyperlink, and then I can see the high-level information associated to that time and any other time that's charged to this case from any other user. Okay. Let's jump now kind of from the overall workflow before we show some of the other modules here on the left-hand side and show you how we can actually add things to the document management section from other avenues. We talked about being able to email out of the system or upload a document or search a document. You also have the ability to use your email through the Alfresco Outlook connector to place a document within the actual document section. Let me show you how that works. So let's go back to the case we created today, which has minimal documents. And I'll show you that there's only one folder in here. So let's go ahead and create a new folder. So let's just say demo. Now that we have a demo folder in here and there's no documents, let's jump out to my email and let me show you what that looks like. So any of you that ever used Alfresco, the Alfresco connector is a very nice tool to allow you to expose the folder structure within the Outlook frame. So if I go in here, you can see that we have obviously the sites. We have the individual folders. Once again, this would be your specific setup for your folder and your content. But as you can see here, we have the case that we created today, and we actually have a folder called demo. Within that folder, there's nothing in there, but I very easily can take an email that maybe I got from Ethan or Darren and make it as a document or artifact within the actual ArcCase application. So as you can see there, I went ahead and uploaded it. You can see that there's an actual email and an actual attachment. By doing that, immediately I can go right back into the application, and I can see that within that actual demo folder, as soon as it syncs with it, you will actually see that individual test demo, or excuse me, that test email within the actual demo folder, which you can see there. I can then utilize this to send a task around that, maybe review this email. I could also download it and to pull it down in native format. So now this is an artifact on the actual case itself, and you can see here's the email. So once again, you don't have to be an ArcCase to upload documents. So it gives you the freedom to drag and drop, to move things around. It just gives you another option of getting documents into the system. Okay. You also have the ability to right click and maybe send this email directly into ArcCase if you wanted to do that, or just do the drag and drop. Okay. Once again, there's a lot of bells and whistles that we may not be able to cover today, but there are a lot of things you can do just alone in the actual document management section. So let's go ahead and change gears and talk a little bit about the end of this overall use case. So just to summarize, you've completed a complaint for Ethan. He's called in or emailed. You've triaged it. You've actually opened it up into an open case. You've collaborated on it for days. Maybe you've added tasks, documents. Maybe you've worked through some collaboration with other folks on this case. Now we're going to close it out as it being a closed case. And the reason that we're going to do that is we want to show you the records management side of the house, where all of the documents associated get declared as records seamlessly. So our case is seamlessly integrated with Alfresco's RMA. And I'm going to go ahead and show you, without closing a case, I'm going to go ahead and show you when I closed a little bit earlier today. If I refresh this page, it may ask me to log back in. But this is the actual Alfresco share site. And this site is only going to be for your records manager. So this is not something that every user will actually go and log in on a day-to-day basis, but your records management side of the house would basically manage all of their actual file and retention plans here in our case. As you can see here, we've got quite a few documents that automatically got moved over to the file management plan, as you can see here in the folder here, because it hit a status of closed case. So if I went in here and looked at this specific record, it will actually show me some of the information or metadata around the status, how it was closed, what type of file management plan, that it is actually a record, that type of thing. So as you can see here, it's got a lot of information. It's got its own viewer. It can tell you, that this has actually been moved over to a records management plan. It is being retained. You could even put a retention schedule or rules around that, and that it is DoD 5015 records management with the artifacts here. Additionally to that, you'll notice that within the actual ArtCase application, if I actually go into this section, you'll actually see, and let me jump into the one we just looked at. You'll notice when I go into the document management section that some of this information has been declared. So whenever an actual individual case has been declared, the actual documents will also be declared. And let me jump back into the complaints module. We also can declare the complaints, even if they're closed out and not made into an actual official record. And let me just show you real quickly. Actually, let me go in and sort my list as closed and investigation. Here's the one we did earlier. I can go into the document section, and when I go in the document section, you'll notice that some of that information has been updated. Okay, so once again, we keep track of everything, not only on the ArtCase side, but also on the Alfresco side. And this is what I was trying to show you here, is that we have actually declared this one as a record. So now you cannot manipulate these documents within ArtCase because they've been moved over to the records management plan. All right, so let's move on to some of the other bells and whistles. We talked about creating complaints, managing cases, working on tasks, associating people and organization to those cases or complaints. But how do you find the information? So maybe we want to go out and look for maybe Ethan. I can look for Ethan. This is going to search for any metadata or even any information within documents. I then can narrow down that information. Maybe I want to looking for just the cases associated to him. Maybe I want to go out and look for, say, AT&T. Maybe it's the organization that I'm looking for. I can actually see that I can narrow down to the information that I'm looking for. Maybe the organization association. As you can see, there's one organization. And you have hyperlinks, so you can actually go out and see the details of that organization by just doing a one-click take you out to that place in the application. If I uncheck the actual facet or the categorizing of the individual information or search, it goes back to the original search. I also have the ability to sort each and every column. So if I wanted to sort by ascending or descending order with a primary or secondary search. I also have the ability to hide columns. So maybe I don't care who the assignee is. I can go ahead and hide. Gives you a little more real estate. You also have the ability to export. So export in the CSV. So you can manipulate the information there in your actual Excel sheet. So a lot of things you can do. Once again, fully configurable to the facets that you have. Also allows you to dictate what information you want to reflect on the actual result set in the columns, and that can be done per your requirements. From a canned reports perspective, I'll run a quick couple of reports so you can see what those look like. I'm just going to run it for the last week and show you some of the information. These reports can be tabular reports. They can be bar charts, pie charts, whatever you want to, or how you want to visualize your information. As you can see here, this happens to be a complaint disposition, how many were opened into a case versus that referred externally, so on and so forth. Same thing with the canned tabular reports. Once again, these are fully configurable. These are just sample reports that come out of the box to show you the versatility of how you can do things. You also have the ability to export these or view these in different formats. So if you wanted to export in Excel and manipulate that data, you could do that. In just a minute, we'll go ahead and create a new report and show you how that works. We already talked a little bit about the time tracking, so we won't talk about that. But before we get into admin, the last one I want to show you is the tags module. The tags module is what we talked about earlier, where you can actually tag individual documents or cases or complaints with specific tags or categorizations that allow you to narrow down your information. So if you wanted to see anything that was tagged with criminal law, you could see that in the results and then actually quickly jump out to that location. Once again, that's a little bit different search than the search in the search module. Search module is going to cover the whole gamut, all the metadata, all the index information. So this is a more refined search. All right, now that you've seen the overall workflow and the bells and whistles kind of around search and reporting, how does the actual application really work? How do I get up and running the first day? Essentially, once you've actually installed the legal management application, you can go in and not only sync your Active Directory, you also have the ability then to control those Active Directory groups, so who has access to those individual groups. You also then can tie those individual groups to what we call ArcCase role access or functional access control. This is what really controls the actual interaction in the application, not the groups, but the roles that are associated to the groups. We have out-of-the-box groups that are available, or roles that are available to you, and those roles already have privileges, but right away, day one, you can go ahead and remove all those and edit or create your own new role and then assign privileges. Specifically, we use the administrator and the investigator. As you can see, certain privileges are authorized, some are not. So essentially, everything is controlled through this role-based access and the functional access control that you can essentially manipulate right here from the admin section. You also have the ability to control what modules you have the access to. As you can see here, all the modules that you see most folks may not have access. So for instance, going into the audit module, you can see only some folks have it. Going into the administration module, only the admin has it. So if anybody else logged in that's part of any of these other groups, you wouldn't even see the module on the left-hand side. You can control your dashboard configurations we talked about. Once again, similar paradigm, what roles have access to the individual widgets. Any widgets that you create specifically to meet your requirements also would be exposed here, and you can regulate them there. You also have the ability to create reports and load the report designer by clicking that. It will open up a new tab and will allow you to create your own new reports. And let's just do that really quickly just so you can see how quickly you can actually spin up your own reports. We won't go into great detail of building this report out, but I want to show you what the designer looks like because it's extremely user-friendly and how you can do the different things associated. So I want to create this time an interactive report, but you can create analysis reports or trend analysis or dashboards. I'm going to go ahead and create an interactive report, and you can actually create these reports off of many different data sources. So if the data sources were the ArcCase database or even other systems that are out there, you can still utilize this tool and create the connection to those individual data sources, whether it's a SQL query or whether it's an actual ODBC, whatever it may be to connect. So once again, this is more of a super user, someone who would have to understand how to drag and drop and utilize the actual data source. This happens to be a specific table. And as you can see here, it lists all the actual columns I have access to. So I could go in here and I could say, well, I want the actual case number in this report. I want that then to be maybe a group, or maybe I want it just to be a column. Then I could add additional information. Maybe I want to see the actual case creator, okay, as a column. So once again, you can continue to add the information. You can double click and enter information. So let's just call it, legal. Once we've got everything set up the way we want, we can change the formatting. We can change the look and feel. We're good to go. We can actually save this as the report name we want it to be and actually save it right into our file folder. As you can see, there's a couple of reports already in there. We'll go ahead and save that one and jump right back into ArcCase. You'll notice there's only 4 here, but as soon as you synchronize, legal is now available to you. You can assign it out, and that easily you can go right back into the reports module and run that. So a lot of things can be done around reporting, creating canned reports or trend analysis, or even dashboard reports. You even can schedule reports. You can change the timesheet configuration about the charge roles. You can control your workflow, which we could spend a whole hour on just kind of showing you how you can control your workflow and workflows being triggered by specific forms or actions. You also have the ability to control your labels or your lookup tables. We talked a little bit about your actual doc types, your case types. As you can see here, this is just one of the many drop downs. You can edit this by deleting or editing or adding. You can even drag and drop the order you want things to be in the drop down. So there's a lot of control in the actual individual user's hands. This is one of the things that is really important to one of our current customers. The Nuclear Regulatory Commission has been utilizing this for a couple of months for the OGC office. And one of their biggest things that they love about it, and that I keep hearing them emailing me about, is how nice it is to be able to go in and make the changes they want to, not only drop downs, but labels. So we put the power back in their hands. So when things change or come down from the top as it pertains to terminology or forms changes or drop down changes, they can do that on their own right here in the admin section. Not only that, they can change logos or even CSS at any one time right here in the application without having to call our media to make those changes. Additionally, they can maintain all of their correspondence templates, so email templates that they send out, document templates they use to generate for their actual cases. And you can see here, one of the actual templates we didn't get a chance to use, but I built for this demo, is an approval letter. So just an approval letter, you can see that this is the template, and you'll notice it's a template because it actually has the mail merge terms within the template. And you can see it would have pulled in the date, it would have pulled in the first and last name. And then once again, you can still edit this. You can manipulate this, add more merge terms. You can see some of the static text. Once again, you can have as many templates as you want. We've shipped with quite a few samples, so you can see the different variations, but you do have the ability to create your own templates and utilize the vast amount of merge terms to populate the actual mail merge within those templates. So it populates as much data as possible to make your job much easier when you're generating these documents. The last thing that I have before I want to turn it back over to the question and answer time is a transcription. Transcription is an extra value add, which means that you don't have to use it. You can actually turn it off completely by disabling it, or you actually can have it enabled and set it so it's not automatically sent off to AWS. Maybe it's a manual action that you want someone to be able to right-click and send to transcribe. Maybe it's every once in a while you have an audio file or video file you need for the transcription you need to present in court. You have the ability to control that also. So we didn't cover everything in admin or everything in the application, but hopefully this was beneficial to you to show you not only what ArcCase can do, but what you can do specifically in the legal management application. Now, with that being said, I'm going to turn it back over to Lauren for question and answers.